Hi, now that you've understood wireframes, mocks, and prototypes, let's go deeper and understand wireframes slightly better, wireframes as well as sketching. So, there are different ways of wireframing. You can draw by hand or you can use apps. Uh, what is the wireframing strategy that you can use? Well, you can sketch and then you can code, but you will end up coding only when the task is very small, the visual design is not so important. For example, administrative interfaces or backend interfaces. You will usually see them very ugly because you don't need the visual design to be very pretty. You just need something that works, right? So you'll simply sketch directly to code. As against that, when the business value is very high, you will have to create a sketch, then the wireframe it, then create a high definition wireframe, then the visual, then finally get it to code. Uh, or you can simply have sketching, then wireframing, then visual, then code. It largely depends on where are you, what kind of scenario are you in. Are you it's is it an internal product, is it an external product, is it for consumers at large, is it a b2b product? Depending on that, you might have different strategies, but effectively, in a nutshell, you will use uh, you will use you will do sketching, and then you will do wireframing, and then you will take it to the code once you have done some sort of validation. So these blocks contribute in making a good wireframe. So when you create a wireframe, you want to make sure all these aspects are being represented in your wireframe. So user and business goals while interacting with the digital interface. Example of user goal: I want an e-commerce website where I can have good shopping experience. Example of a business goal: to convert a general user to a loyal and regular user. How the content needs to be placed and organized, right? This is very important, and a lot of times A/B testing is used to get the organization, that is what element should go where. um, you would use A/B testing a lot of times. For example, if you open Amazon's website, you will realize that by default your attention would go to the top right corner of the page. That's where the cart is, right? And that has been organized and placed very strategically. Positioning your logo and main message. What does your brand represent? A strong message and logo adds to the brand equity and its value. What would you like to draw the attention of your users to when they arrive on the page? And this ties with your business goals. If the goal of your business is to enable in online shopping, you will want to draw the attention of your users to discounts on items or low prices. For instance, what is the call to action? What do you wish the user to do after he or she reaches your website? It could be shopping, it could be checking out a car, it could be registering to your website, it could be anything. But typically, you will have one CTA on a single page, or a single most important CTA on a single page. What's the user expectation of your digital page? Well, understand and analyze what users are expecting from your website. By able to understand this aspect, you will be able to expand your user base. Right. So try to answer all of these questions when you're designing and sketching a wireframe. So when you're sketching a mobile app or a website in general, the step one is to sketch. You would create a rough representation of your ideas. It can be done with the help of paper, pen, pencil. It could you could use um, you could also use a digital tool, but effectively the idea is to do it very fast and just get it out. Right? It helps you communicate the main goal of your app to all your stakeholders, and avoid any form of detail. It should be just a simple structure. Step 2 is wireframing. So now you will begin to develop the ideas you sketched earlier. You will add more detail at this stage. You will start using digital tools. Once you verified the sketch, you'll be a little more confident as to what details you want to add. Uh, it again, when I say details, it should not be like full fidelity, but it should have just enough details so that you can validate the next set of assumptions or next set of things that you are doubtful about, right? So the idea is basically you are validating one after the other. So you first of all you began with the the broad understanding that okay, this is the structure, this is the flow of information that I'm broadly thinking. If this is good, let me just sketch out the details, that where how will it be a drop down, will it be an accordion, will it be a checkbox, will it be what? right? Which is what you'll do at wireframing. And then once the wireframing has been done, then you'll create mockup so that you can start figuring out the look and feel of it, right? So mockup is still an idea and is far from the finished product, and it will have a little more details about the content, how that content will be structured, what kind of images will be used, and so on. And finally, you have a prototype. Once you have done the mockup and you have taken it to the users, you have taken some feedback, that's when you will be much more confident that, okay, now let's talk about just the look and feel. Are the people able to get the emotional satisfaction about the product or not? Right, it is developed from a few iterations of the mockup, and it also prototypes also include interactivity between the elements and objects, and this is like the closest it comes before the actual coding and before the actual final product is done. Prototyping helps the users in clearly visualizing, getting a very good sense of how the data would flow from point to point, right? And this is the 4 steps that you will take. So let's conceptualize an idea. Take a piece of paper and pencil, or a pen. Let's say the problem we have identified is that when people go out with friends and family, they find it difficult to locate washrooms easily. So let's develop a washroom mobile app that could help them locate washrooms easily. So first, on a piece of paper, sketch how you visualize the idea. Here is my attempt of this app. You suggest, uh, I'll suggest that you make an attempt at doing the same thing. Then you can use a software like Belasmic to create wireframes as shown here, and mock-up um and create a mock-up and a wireframe about the same idea. Okay, on this frame you can see easily that there is no detail. It's just a bunch of blocks which just give you a broad idea of how screens by screen things will flow. They are just placeholders. And then from the wireframe we have created a mock-up, right? This mock-up is much more detailed. There's some data and it has been formed after a few iterations, right? There is some content, and there's only 2 mockups that we have created, but you basically have understood there's no interactivity between them, but we at least have understood that how the flow of from sketch to mockup happens. And this at this stage is good enough to show to your stakeholders to communicate the idea and get the basic sense of your app, right? And then finally you will prototype using InVision. You will put these two things, these two or more screens in InVision or a tool like InVision to prototype on InVision, where you'll connect these screens and you'll kind of create a working app that the users can actually use and can get a sense of how it will look like once it's completed. It's very similar to uh, creating storyboards in movies and then actually shooting it. It's very similar to that. So to conclude, uh, once you have done all the theoretical understanding of the problem, which is by market analysis, your competitive research, user persona research, and so on, when you have to communicate the final solution, there are multiple tools. You can sketch, you can mock, you can prototype, and you should ideally do this before to communicate your idea instead of just handing them a PRD, a set of document, a simple text, because a lot of times text can be misleading if you're not written properly, and even if you're written it properly, it actually takes a lot of time. So having text along with wireframes is like makes sure that your complicated ideas or your entire solution approach is very clearly communicated to the developers and designers. That's it for now. Thank you.